Kanjikani so Chetamse, Sachin de la combatin Bornanga, Jiden de Nacho, so there's a Keva la Chachalo. Oh, yeah, that, oh, some Jetam Jagatando, Sanjay Yakovan Tobasha, Samroa, oh, the H to Rimjene, Panara. Running as on a magic Ladami, Joasilanku, taking the church of Budana, or the indicate Tobico, Shansam Janlia, Lunayusun Chapa, Chiniki Pamba to be in some. Oh, the net is on the Ladami, Covantia, then to tell us my imbe, let a new be Shahansinki, Kishila Rama Baimbe, Raha Tobaches, let a new bong be Raha to Chimbaguba. Kemako all condition, then to Tarwas to Mele, then to Tarwas, Sagosa. The Judeliana, Pardon Zimbata Chata, Majuda Conjose, Baba Shansa Yamura, Maji Tratola Sobo, the Supangu Samsa. Oh, to me, Raji Tarwato was something so. Rather Chimpe Pamalo Sobata, Joanna Mata, Shania Rana Penta Mata Kaira. Simji condition at the Andola Tungamento by Imbe, Random Drawa, the Andola Tungamento by Imbe, Tamje to Medan Trawata, Tamje to Net and to Tawala, going to be Kansachi Chinik and Jura Chavi Insam, or Tichito, Kibuchimotan Junta, Chimbelam Rumbi, Tebada Samba, Ombachan Yamsolaki, teacher the Chinyang Yasam Kumusat and the Samba shows, huh?
So here, thinking that for the benefit of all sentient beings, I'm going to attain the state of Buddhahood. And in order to do that, I need to practice in stages, in sequence, the kind of practices beginning with that of the small scope, thinking that I want to, in the future, attain a good rebirth as a human or a god. And in order to be able to do that, to avoid the sufferings of the lower realms, I'm going to abandon harm and engage in whatever kind of benefit I can for others. And so that's the kind of first stage. But thinking that, well, like even a good rebirth as a human or a god is not free from suffering. And so I want to move beyond that, gain a definite kind of freedom, and recognizing that the cause of our uncontrolled rebirth in samsara is this fundamental thought of an I, this holding to a self, and the kind of thought of us and them, mine and the other that comes from that. By getting rid of that and abandoning our pride and jealousy and afflictions and so forth, we're able to attain a definite liberation from that cycle. But then we think, well, it's not just me who is suffering, but all sentient beings are subject to this state of samsara. And it's not just those who have been beneficial or kind to me, those who are like my friends and family, but all sentient beings are equal in not wanting to suffer and wanting to have happiness. And therefore, I'm going to strive by whatever means I can to attain such a state in which I am able to fully benefit all sentient beings. And for that purpose, then, I'm going to listen to this Dharma. And by hearing the Dharma, I'm able to contemplate it, meditate on it, and put it into practice, and thus eventually be able to attain such a state. So we should set such a motivation for listening to these teachings, thinking in this way that we're going to engage in the 3 levels of practice for that final goal.
Yandala Sobatu Kanga, Kusun Sabachini by Yinaya, and a tea Kasura. Tatazuli Kenshin get a Makan Gura Chatan and Makan Gura Chadova. Oh, Tisujako. Oh, Tizukangalia, Shinja Shuxim Mavacha Odessa. Tizuli Shinja Yunana Sosa. Gana Koala, Koya to Navi, Gana Mavacha. And I guess Sabatobo. I guess a king button Chado than Nishalia. Randanyamba used to Solia. Simche, Raleigh Haram, Yoga, Tadoshe, Raleigh to the member to the Tunjuche, or to do Yunga. Today, Maranzo, to Batan Trabatan, the Yara Chosorani, Nadia dancing or to the Danda, Chin Duce, Havana Tadoshe, and member Tunjuche, so Yungora, Kena Gora, or David Tenito, Shinja Habashirum Marasugora. She don't go to some somebody, Yango Era, the Yanaka Mata, to Shinjadi, Banguado. Changes in the Shinja Magani to the persons of a corda, corporations of a neck, persons of larger persons of a yellow, Shantu to Velas of a Cambitolia, the Tanyadalas of an independent Chayara. The marriage not the one to get Hosuna, or the Pandole Negusha Yungara, the one to Chen, the Transiba Chinkatilia, from the side of your mother, the paint over this. Cannot take a Shabisha in younger yard, or kill a concha at Agres. The Transbun Jingi with the Yabo Escara, Nasola Mitma City combination is Soda.
So then, as for where we had left off last time, beginning in verse 98, at the beginning, it says, praise and so forth distract me. And so here, even when we get praised by others or we get good things and so forth, we tend to get really attached to that. And when our enemy, say, is praised or has good things happen to them, we get upset at that. And so when we have such strong clinging to getting praise from others or having fame, this actually, as it continues in the verse, it says, it distracts me. And also this undermines my delusion with cyclic existence. I start to envy those who have good qualities, and all the very best is destroyed. So here, due to having sort of pride, we get more involved, invested in cyclic existence, and therefore don't have the kind of renunciation towards it. And so too, when we get praise, we tend to get prideful. We sort of look at those around us and those that we see as equals. We're like, actually, I'm better than them. And we have a sense of superiority, or we look at those that are above us and feel jealousy. We want to get what they have. And we look at those that we see as below us and belittle them. So praise and fame, although having those things can be beneficial in some senses, it's really our attachment, our excessive attachment to them that creates so many faults. When we have those, we end up engaging in jealousy and pride and so forth. And so it's really getting rid of that kind of attachment. If excellent things happen, like when we talk about having an excellent abode and possessions and body and so forth, these are aids in order to be able to help others. So there are those who become famous or get a lot of praise, and in that way are able to benefit other sentient beings. But here, when we get such attachment to it, it creates trouble. Then the verse below is similar. It says, therefore, are not those who are closely involved in destroying my praise and the like also involved in protecting me from falling into the unfortunate realms? So here, when we have praise, when we get those kinds of things, we get caught up. We have all those faults that come from that, especially if we get really attached to that. So those who destroy our praise or get in the way of that are actually protecting us from falling into the lower realms. So it's not logical to get angry at them. Rather, we should appreciate that person.
Sente zo chiyo mare chima de zo chiyo arda. O teso zo ko da nye so ge tungele te hada nye ko wan zo tende nye ge chila Sendelico, the Chimachini Chimacho or Chiliora. O ti duza cendele ye bada tabara kudila soba tezumana kene mate tenye so che te kyo asima me so letana fada me komba tu chiti yes tele anye bada kudita kinye da tu ye ne male kyo asya mato keme dusa o tindisane samutangwa ne da kuti chingumba ti da shida tarbatun de ne tawarwa tarbatun ye tabatun ko yare tumele tendo tabatun 대신도 니바도 꾸들려 써버려 신자 침부전에 고에게 매세 심지어 탐지를 좀 중간이나 다와나시 좋았던도 니와 조이마도 연주도 니라고 써봤던도 니와도 조마인세 지시자도 그밤에 신자라고 잠을 오성다.
So then following turns to this verse 100 where it says, I who am striving for freedom. So here, if we are a practitioner, and this means that we are someone at the very least, not just focused on the sufferings of this life, but thinking beyond our death to our next life and wanting to protect against falling into the lower realms. And so here, in order to be freed from the lower realms, one is practicing abandoning the harm of others and benefiting other sentient beings. And so praise and fame are things that you don't need. If you are striving for that larger kind of goal, then things like respect and honor and praise and fame are just sort of trivial. One is striving to get a good rebirth in the future. And beyond that, someone of the middling capacity is striving for a kind of definite freedom from samsara, from cyclic existence. And thereby they don't need any sort of fame or praise. Again, they're striving to eradicate the cause of this continued rebirth. And so too, for striving to achieve the aims of all sentient beings.
Militato chekuna desi chekuna karichi samsa tembi chense. Tako chinya datu zumbaru sheti chetelia, nanya solo sunya vi kodipa gyavana shichmasu koka dichi bure shase. Ditile chita chua chigi mares kawa komgo shita chide shase disidwa.
So then in the next verse, in verse 100, those who wish to cause me suffering, it starts, they are really actually, so those who sort of prevent our getting praise and honor and fame and so forth, they are really preventing us from engaging in, when we get those kinds of things, we get prideful, we get jealous, and therefore are creating the kind of causes for going into an unfortunate realm. So those who prevent us from getting those things, from being praised and so forth, are actually preventing us from going into that unfortunate realm. So it's not logical to be angry with them. Instead, we should appreciate them for stopping us from creating that future suffering.
Làm cho mình mất danh tiếng, hay là mình không vì kìa mình mất danh tiếng cho nên mình không có tạo thêm nhiều cái điều bất thiện, vì muốn danh tiếng, muốn được giàu có nên chúng ta tạo nhiều bất thiện. Thì hôm nay họ đã cản trở cái cho chúng ta làm chuyện đó, có nghĩa là họ giúp mình để không đi vào những cái nơi đầy thống khổ. Nên chúng ta nên vui mừng và kiên nhẫn chứ không nên tức giận họ.
Mỗi giờ thấy đi chơi lớn gì đó, đi đi xem mình thấy gì chứ, tao coi như là nhiều đó là cái chuyện là cái mình được ra được rồi, mình hiện tại chúng chỉ là cái mình được, anh ấy coi như là số về, chưa được bao giờ số đó, chỉ bắt đầu số đó, số bao giờ số bao thế rồi là cái gì đó, cái đó là cái gì đó, thế số đó có cho ra cái gì sao vậy nè, đi cái đó là cái gì đó mà đấy sẽ, 이 소소가 공부처에는 근데 소소 교환을 계신 거 소소 차고도 소소서가 공사에는 교환 두발이하고 팀지 동결에 차도로마도 거기 대신기 차고마도 손녀가 전에 가르쳐 있는 거 파서가 공사나 수수께와 경계 컨디션이 때문에 교환한 분야는 그봐 자신만에서도 돈하고 텔레 조진게 차고도 마도 텔레 조진게 말해서 걔네서가 공사기나 서발에 사고지 초디 집에 교환해와서 어디 인도텔이야 조엘이 등기용 비하래서 그래서 그 계획이 말해서 조진게 돼서 교환 주발에 조진게 돼서
So the next, it addresses the kind of thought we might have to get angry at those that we see as obstacles to our merit. So we might say, well, okay, someone who is an obstacle to my gaining praise or honor or something like that, I can see why I shouldn't get angry. But if someone is preventing me from doing something meritorious, something virtuous, then it seems I should be able to get angry. They're preventing me from doing this virtuous thing. But actually, if we, at that sort of opportunity where someone is hurting us or doing us some kind of harm, if we get angry, we are the obstacle to our creation of merit, because by being patient, we are able to accrue a great deal of merit. But by getting angry, we're destroying those roots of virtue that we have already accumulated. So if we get angry, then we have lost this sort of opportunity. And not only is this person not an obstacle to our merit, but they're actually a sort of conducive condition, a necessary condition for us to be able to practice in that way. So there's no virtue supreme, superior to patience. And the one that harms us acts as a helper for us to be able to actually implement that practice, as long as we don't get angry. If we get angry, we are the cause for the destruction of our merit, for the decline of our merit, but not that other person.
Mà họ đang trợ giúp cho chúng ta tích lũy nhiều công đức, tại vì hạnh nhẫn là một cái việc thiện mà không có việc thiện nào bằng cái là nhờ nhẫn nhục.
Ôi là đó tôi chỉ ta này, cái thứ ta này hàng những gì sẽ ra, đi cần sự đó sẽ là, số số thì rằng thì cái không được sao bây giờ mà đã tin được sự gì đó, cái thứ ta này thôi sẽ chỉ là sẽ sự đó, cái thứ ta này hàng những gì, tôi cho luôn mà rồi. Cái điều rồi rằng thì không được là số vật thì cái chuyện mới vật thì cái số đó rằng những gì sẽ trang đi là nó số vật mà cũng bị nó sẽ gọi đó này trang đi là số vật mà cũng bị nó trang đi nó số năm cái chú rồi nó làm nhà vậy sẽ trang số vật cũng số sẽ số năm sáu sáu cái chú rồi thì xin được thì gọi đó còn số vật cũng bị gì lâu rồi thôi thì số đó trang đi Seba komsa ke ni chodi ki wa seba komji di kudi nyar ne ba de se bara o ti ka lu so je seba kom go re se ki ma bun na so so sunam di ya so so ke se ba se ba re se paru bo ke se ba ma do so so ki wa la ke se ba re sta ten da ko kon du chung ge ji ne ti seba kom go ra kon du chung ge ma ni seba kom ke ya ma ra na ju sha da seba kom ma ra ta kon du chung ge ke de seba kom go ra 어디 이러자고 제가 공부이냐 아니 소소 가져도 객실도 말해 제가 그냥 개와서야 그 틀리는 누구도 왔어 어디서 저들이야 내가 잘하고 말했어
So here related to the next verse, we should recognize that if I get angry, like I have strong anger, this is my own sort of fault. And due to that, if I'm not able to bear with whatever sort of harm this enemy does, then I am sort of destroying the cause of my own merit. So this the sort of other person isn't the obstacle to my merit, because actually they are the person that say gets angry at us is the one that gives us the opportunity to be able to practice patience. And so if we don't use that to practice patience, then we are the one that is at fault for our merit declining, for an obstacle to our merit. And so if we don't have people who get angry at us or who provoke our anger, we can't actually practice patience. And so therefore, these are the conducive conditions, the necessary sort of conditions to actually engage in the practice of patience. And so therefore, it's in no way logical to get angry at them, but rather we should use this opportunity to practice patience and thereby increase our merit, not act as an obstacle to it. So continuing with this idea that these sort of those that provoke anger in us or cause us harm are not obstacles to our merit. Here the sort of general teaching comes first in verse 104, where it says that if without it something does not occur, and if with it it does come to be. So here, the one that is causing us harm or provoking our anger is a necessary kind of cause in order for us to be able to practice patience. So if we don't have, without that kind of cause, we don't have the chance to practice patience. And so in that way, having someone who creates anger in us or who is harmful to us is an indispensable kind of cause that leads up to our merit. So if we get angry, we are the ones causing the obstacle. We are the ones causing the decline in our merit, but it's actually beneficial to us to have someone that is harmful. So this is followed by an example to illustrate this, how our enemy in this situation, or one who causes us harm, is not an obstacle, but a conducive condition. So here it says in 105, a beggar is not an obstacle to generosity when I am giving something away. So if we want to be generous, we need someone to be a recipient of that. We need someone to give it to. And so like that, and in a similar way, in order to gain ordination, one needs to have those that can confer the vows of ordination, other ordained sangha and masters and teachers and so forth. So we wouldn't say that either of those things are an obstacle to accomplishing them. And in the same way, the one who causes us harm is not an obstacle, but rather a necessary condition for the practice of patience. Just like having a recipient for one's generosity, or one to confer vows in the case of ethics.
Nếu bạn không biết nắm lấy cơ hội và tích lũy công đức thì là bạn mới là người tự cản trở công đức của mình, chứ kẻ thù họ không cản trở công đức của mình, mà họ chỉ là những người tạo thêm điều kiện để cho bạn tích lũy nhiều công đức hơn, nhờ nếu bạn biết nhẫn nhục.
우리 다들 자들과 여기까지로서는 우리도 진보신 개발자다, 진보 땅의 신사, 진보 땅의 수능 소설 신들었어요. 진보신 땅 도 가서래, 진보신 얘기는 있잖아. 이 진보 땅에서 신들 신수도 제당한테 토하고 신수 토사고 신수다. 신수도 신수다 지는 것도 내도 때문에 저기야 민이 들려 신수거라. 기내시고 세바권네 교사니야 리부미에다. 진보 땅에 교사니 리부미에다. 신수거라. 진보신은 비신들이 내라고 그랬어. 매는 그래서 술이 진보 땅을 가봐야 진보 땅에서 오라. 저희는 저거는 나타나는 지소이나 가와이는 진보 땅에서 오라. 진보신들 내라고 그래서 내고 그래서 거라. 내라고 아버지 야마타도 니에도 그래서. 저는 단지 초바선자 소리 초바선자 남주 시간 받쳐야 마셔도 소차와진데도 공부해서 그냥 영습으로 들려 용역 것들을 소개하라. 뒤권에서 다르서 뒤손자고 서바권의 신비 단대 신비 때문에 공부해서 뒤에 들려 중에 갑도 소소 고갑도 맞을 야부정을다. 서바 공부이나 교만고서 공부하는 마시니 대부분 시험도 이 서바 공부할 때는 교원 별로 치수도 세딜에 소소 기바신에 다 내가 맞춰서 아니야 두고 말도 두기하고 말와 이렇게 하시면 들리셔로 어디 유전 고가소라 어디니 가버려서 뒤니 버려 고급 출신마다서 수능하고 싸우고 저래서도 아주 가시는 마무시마 조지빠데 아디샤 로마시 가가시와라 아차라 샤르치와라 가가시 아주 뭐 저번에 메시지도 컴퓨터인데 내가 컴퓨터인데 틀리마시면서 어디지 조지빠데 아디샤르티 고년도 가지니 아무도 수비 아무메도세 저래 아무메로 코네라래 내 조지빠데 아디샤티 제가 틀려라 말은 늘 고요해서 말소대 신의 고대 판도에서 그 저거를 가르치는 것을 도구도 따비어라. 대개는 장도여라. 장해야 된다. 저거를 공부수는 세계사회 나라들 때나고야 말아. 제가 공부 경제실에 삼지 맞아지. 제가 공부 수는 세계사회 삼다 좋아요 말도. 소질러서 파악하도 물론마도 갑자기 맞는 뒷맛을 삼다. 겹쳐 삼지 때도. 그리고 수능상에 뭐냐 서가를 못 장게 공부는 이미 당기지는 고들에 장고여라. 이래저래 장도자는 버르지를 쑥ሰር설지는 남이고 그래서 세통 미차기여라. 어디선부터 제가 공사비 유티라 갖고 그랬더니 제가 공부는 수능 납치부 사기여라. 스티라 수능 납치부 사기여라. 공부자리는 이거 마음이 사기도와 어디 국업상부터 버려야 삼을 싸친 부지니 어디야 도저히 말이스 공부했어야 되죠. 아니 됐었다.
So then next we turn to verse 106, which talks about how this is a rare and sort of particular or special field. So this word field, and often we translate this as object in English, like the sort of field, we can talk about a field of merit, a field in a sort of thing or object in relation to which we accumulate merit. This is the same sort of way, like if you plant something, it will grow in a field. And so here, the sort of field or object of our generosity is quite easy to find. Wherever we look, we could find potential recipients for our generosity. There are beggars and those in need and those in hospitals and schools and all of these places. places, and it's easy to find. But when it comes to those that cause us harm, especially if we ourselves are not going around harming others, if we are really making a concerted effort not to cause harm to others, then that is something that is much more rare. So here in the verse it says, "There are indeed many beggars in this world, but scarce are those who inflict harm. For if I have not injured others, few beings will cause me harm." So here, when we recognize that this is a rare kind of situation, we should take advantage of it and not let it go to waste. When we have this opportunity to practice patience, in dependence upon practicing patience, we can gain a great deal of merit. We have a great benefit that can come from that, not only in our future lives in terms of the merit, the virtue that we accrue, but also even in this life. We will have less conflict and fighting around us if we are able to practice patience in that. So here, this is something where we shouldn't get angry. We should instead recognize the precious sort of rare opportunity that we have. So there's a story that we've talked about before about there was an Indian attendant of or student of Atisha, and Joel Atisha had this student around, and many would ask him, well, why do you keep that guy around? He acts just sort of, he has a really rough, rude sort of demeanor, and he acts however he feels like. Why do you keep him around? And Atisha replied that, well, it's in dependence upon him that I'm able to practice patience. And so he had him there to see if he could really bear with and be patient with whatever arose. If you have someone that is like that, you have actually a great opportunity to profit, to benefit from the practice of patience. We normally think of when we practice patience or when we sort of bear with something that we're taking a loss, we're like just enduring something and we're somehow the lesser for it, we lose something. But really, we should turn that around. We should see, like Atisha did, that if we train daily in being patient with those that might provoke us or cause anger in us, it's actually something extremely beneficial. And we need those kinds of objects of our patience in order to be able to improve at our practice of patience. So we need to have that kind of opportunity. And if in this world, generally, it's quite rare to have those that are going to inflict harm upon us. So we need to appreciate those opportunities when they come and not allow them to go to waste. Instead, recognizing that practicing patience, and it creates such a powerful amount of merit, and we really should not let it go to waste. It's not right to get angry, but it's also, we shouldn't see our practicing patience as somehow a loss, but rather see the person that harms us as a rare and special field, and the opportunity to practice patience as something that we should take advantage of.
Và gây rất nhiều phiền phức tổn hại cho mình, đó là cái đối tượng để chúng ta nhẫn nhục, và chúng ta phải trân quý cái đối tượng đó, thì cái đối tượng đó rất là hiếm có, rất là khó gặp. Tại vì mình không tức giận là mình không bị mất phước, và mình còn nhẫn nhục thì mình tích lũy nhiều công đức. Nên chúng ta hãy nên nắm lấy cơ hội, khi mà có cơ hội để nhẫn nhục thì chúng ta nên nhẫn nhục, nên chúng ta đừng đánh mất cơ hội nhẫn nhục rất là hiếm hoi và rất là khó có.
Oya totira. Tanga jindi sabandirita. Teve niye matu bese dira. Teve niye matu bese. O todi kasu desna. Kisen teve nana sura tamatili sheni. Shaba kumsa de yu tadi. Ne kumba prese. Tele shaba kumbini kugab samburi sa mabu savire. Teve mabu davire sunruwa. O kisen teve nana se. Niye matu bese. Soso kale kemni tumma goba pechagdwa newe matube kimdu tenni juadas soso kale kemni goje soso nangdo bachine terisi chungi rambuchin le sheviji ma sanini ya tenji nyeba yena sigra kawa regirwa shivu kawa yungurwa soso nani ko rambuchin terisi de ya sawane ya ravatin de yena ni kawa shivu yungurwa se kale shire kemni gochungra Tewe niwe matube kimdu tenni juadar Teri jungsuni kada chogura o ti nashi sigara chungura janju chube to girbe taga tala kawasas sanje ji koba lana mebe chanju gu chube to chube lana mebe chanju sanje ji koba tobjege chube to chuba paru chiba tuwara teni ni sebarwa lana mebe sanje koba tobe chuba paru chiba tuwa nane ne sebe paru di chimba ya chimbe draw chodu kubati chungre eswara Aga tala kawar chasa, tatare koga sambushir chonsosam, sabakumyarwa, sosuning bibya peya, koga sambushir chonsosam, tadila kawar chawa kores, tuar chari mares, kim tu tek chona midi kata shiura, oti nashin, tak kewa shibuji tulku samgayana kawa nguarta, razu desidi yungi mera misibara chishedu samsa yawate, lo change chini yungiwara, ko seba kumya kada shika kumkondu samdi seba kanya kondu samde yara ani kondu chungro indi no oda ko ga yungu san sabse chigra seba kumya sabse chigra ngaraje ko lo kara lejelia karisam na taga bansha kondu san kondu se tada chine ngaje chine ngaje taga tanga mato ko sabje ta samke medu te samlo korto mudwa tan ngine lo change jine o to zo ne kawara yungu harto o tambi.
So then getting to the new verse here, it says in verse 107, therefore, just like a treasure appearing in my house without any effort on my part to attain it. So here, therefore, as was explained above, the sort of person who causes us harm, that acts as an object of our patience, is something very rare. We have this opportunity to accumulate a great deal of merit and purify many negativities if we practice patience in that moment. And so, as an example, it's like if you were to find in your house without any sort of effort, you don't have to go out anywhere, you don't have to search at all, you just find a great treasure in your house, we would all be quite pleased with that. We'd be very happy to just find that without any kind of effort. And so here, this fact, we should recognize that instead of being upset at the sort of like enemy or the one who causes us harm, this is actually a person who is acting as a cause for our being able to attain the state of perfect, complete enlightenment, to attain the state of Buddhahood, because one needs, in order to do that, to perfect the 6 perfections, including the practice of patience. And so if we are to do that, we need someone in which to practice patience, in which to be able to develop that to the level of perfection, to the level of Buddhahood. And so here, this kind of when someone causes us harm, we should instead use it as an opportunity and increase our resolve, recognizing that it's not right to get angry. If we really have this sense that, oh, I need a lot of virtue, I need to engage in a lot of positive actions, and we contemplate the kind of benefits of patience and the defects of anger, then while we are sort of training our mind, obviously there are those times when we want to get angry. But if we have contemplated, we've thought about these things, then maybe we won't react with anger so quickly. And instead, oh, this is an opportunity for me to practice patience. However, if we don't see this as something that is really for changing, for transforming our mind, and just let our mind act as it normally does, the way that we get angry with people and we get jealous and we give into our afflictions, then we won't benefit from that. But here, if we really think about this, the benefits of practicing patience, the great virtue that comes out of that, the kind of defects of anger, then when we get that opportunity, we can recognize, oh, this is a rare and precious opportunity, and actually put it into practice. So it says in the rest of this verse, I should be happy to have an enemy, for he assists me in my conduct of awakening.
Kati sutu sammebe said. Kati sutu sammebe tandi choja menshi nasa. Tuba yini kyufunwa tambe choja chiti choya setara. Tadi karsuvarishina. Kote tadi ko soba kombire nartene soba kombire kola kewa yungire. Ane tego mamu tagiri samja ko kondutu biyo marwasa. Ko sozo chinu kambi cheche ko kondutu neba kye yorwasa. Te sonja ko chube neke marese. Neba chibe nese, kawa chibe neta. Neba chube ne kola kawa chese shi marese gora. Kawar chakura shi marese sambai nese gora. Kati sutu sammebe, kati pradiliya nari soba kombire samja ko neba kye yor marese gora. Te sonja kola ya, ti samu ke yor marese neba kye mato. trying to show some nation, and to try to show some mares, show a person mares order. Show a number of conjuration and prayer matter some Tankumaroti mare, never to but let show a seva, never to Kawacha but let show a seva. Pamata Gahatos in the Sira. Padamala Mata Pita, Puja Karnacha, Pujas to church or Sira. The Kawato, Pama Kawato, Pama church or Chobato Resora, Chobatos with Kawati Soda. Or Tistoko Korana Lovage, Jane Tadi, Kosova Kumburu Koki, Pigris and Samba Sambuka Yamara, Kundava Samata Yamara, Korani Kawaki the Yumara, Kawar Chaku the Yumarese, Chida Yumarese. Condusasa is a panda carefully, some Bainasiora, around the summit in the Sambira, around the Sambadish, in a Pacific Orva, Shenas is in the Lambeke Yamara, so to the Sambaina or to the Sambia Maris, so Palachica Labiorno. Kede Karsera. It is to do some other. Cause over to go and Samba Sambuka Yamaris, Tadilla. Tandi choja nation, Tandi ko Kawa Chari Shima Rese, never to Shima Rese. Tina say, Tavan, to some be on my rese. Pajo de some year, my tire, my social payment going down, mother. Pajo de Pembe some year, but I'm never to detect your mother. Today in a Kuroa, Tambecho Janchi choice. Marajo Kunjo Sungora, Tambecho, Sanjay Kunjo Sri, Captain Babo Sanjay Lada. Combayorno. Kindi Kunjo, Kindi Kansare, some Yoruba. Show Kunjo Sudoja, Kivichuno de China, Begiwachu Pang, Kewachu to wait a chorwa. Given the Indesinico, Chabang, Yuri Chabang, Yumupang, the Pamba, Yumu Seba Seba, Tilia Chokojo Sigora. Or teach you Kunjo Tilia, some look at Mara, Yumu Seba Seba, Shana Chawapang, the Pamba. Sawapamba Suko Sunday Marwa. Take a some doors and another conjure sumba, Shoba Cambridge Duzane, Sunam Sag Marvesura, Cover Chow Marwese, Tela Keralia, Chu Conjetilit, Pembacha with some look at Marwase. Some yesterday made the concert in Gura. Sanjay Conjodi, some Yorwa, Sanjerwa, Kindu Conjodi, up to the concert. Chu Conjo said it, such a kind of Sabbath. Quando seja que samuta seba chiba quando seba dela chese gora shana sawa pamba te chora chaba de namu pamba te chora o tele ko pamba dele samu ke yamarwa que pamba chibu sa yamara ni so ko juri caption ke yamara sto pamba yamara sora faje de so ke ni ke pamba ngur sa samu me do asora adi dura Tambecho Yachi de Chu de Chu, Tambecho de Le Chobercha, my Batendu, this order, Kushapcha Kumara, Kawacha Kumaras, Kazatil and Samuel Mara, Pembacha, some of Marwasa, or the two Bares, the assembly of my retire on my project, social payment and Tauris, social payment, she sonza, and the Kuru Kawacha uses, or this one.
Suy nghĩ về những cái lợi ích vì kẻ thù nghịch đó.
So here, then I'm not sure if we skipped a little bit of one, but here, if we have this kind of thought, I will get a great deal of merit from this kind of practice of patience, and this will purify my merits or purify my negativities and so forth. Here, it says then. So because we're going to get sort of this great deal of merit, and in the verse above, it says in 108 that because we're able to practice patience, he is worthy of being given the very first fruits of my patience, for in this way he is the cause of it. So here someone might come back with this, well, why should my enemy be venerated? He has no intention to he has no intention for me to practice patience. So here, when it comes to sort of like when we are trying to please someone through offerings or something like that, we have an intention for them to be happy. We have that sort of intention with the others, with other sorts of practices. But here in this case, again, an enemy who causes us some kind of harm, they don't have any thought that they're helping you practice patience. They don't have that kind of intention. And so someone might think, well, then they're not really worthy of my veneration. Why should I appreciate my enemy like that? Because they don't have that desire to actually help me. It's not a thought for them to help me accomplish this kind of practice of patience. And so because they lack that intention, then why would I feel that way toward them? And so here it continues by saying, well, then why venerate the sacred Dharma? It too has no intention, but it is a fit cause for practice. So here, when it comes to like the three jewels, we can talk about the Buddha and the Sangha, say having those kinds of intentions to benefit others, that sort of altruistic attitude. But when it comes to the Dharma, we are referring to things like, for a practitioner of the small scope, their abandonment of the 10 non-virtues, their engagement in virtuous practices in order to accomplish that particular kind of goal. Or when we look at the various practices of someone who has attained their own liberation, the kinds of extinctions of suffering that they have created within their mind stream, that is what we're talking about in terms of the Dharma. And that Dharma does not have any thought to help us. It's things like realizations or abandonments, the abandonments of various afflictions and so forth, these things that are gotten rid of on the path that we refer to as the actual Dharma, that has no intention to benefit us in any way. The sort of abandonments of various afflictions or the kinds of abandonments that occur as one proceeds through the various paths, there's no intention on the Dharma, on the part of the Dharma, to benefit us, but yet it is something that is fit for practice. By practicing the Dharma, we're able to achieve great things. So here, it's not the case that we don't venerate the Dharma because it has no intention to benefit us. And so too, when it comes to an enemy, even though they don't have a sort of thought to help us in our practice of patience or to benefit us in any way, they are still worthy of our veneration because of the fact that they act as a cause for our being able to accumulate such great merit. So we should, it's possible to generate merit or to generate benefit from things like the Dharma that don't have a particular intention to benefit you. So therefore we shouldn't say, like, I can't appreciate or venerate my enemy, the one who causes me harm, because they didn't intend to help me with this practice of patience. That's not a valid kind of reason.
Như vậy thì chúng ta không nên kính trọng pháp, có đúng không? Nhưng mà không đúng. Chúng ta không nên xem là có tâm hay không có tâm, nhưng mà cái gì có lợi cho chúng ta để tích lũy thiện thì chúng ta nên cung phụng và trân quý. Nếu như vậy thì chúng ta cũng không nên cúng dường chánh pháp, thì chánh pháp giúp cho chúng ta tu thiện, chỉ chánh pháp không có tâm giúp cho chúng ta tu thiện. Ở đây nói là không quan trọng cái chuyện là có tâm giúp hay không giúp, nhưng mà cái nào mà có lợi ích cho chúng ta tu thiện thì chúng ta nên cung phụng và xem trọng.
Tanti ra, tanti me chave, samye choja meshina. Tini dharmi dosa cho kunja tilia, pension mena konneva chandu ya marwasa. Kode pension de ya mar tede rede, neva chandu ya marwasa, konneva chandu ya chan. Teso tuma kuk shepse gubata, kawa vene mare sambira ngara sambira. Konneva chego sa samye bati sambudwa. Kita samye neva chena, samye neva chena chibadirwa. Tawinda ko samye bati tsawara chiga sa tifa. Yabumindu samje ko samye rangara samye tanda tiri sora. Kende tandi me chave, samye choja meshina, tandi loko neva chego samye yorwase. Oti yuza ko chevara hebe yu marese, ko cheva cha yu marese, cheva cha yuse na ko yeba tube yu marese, kawara yu marese. Oti, yusana te kirane, naba shindu pachana, tagu cheva chidadus, cái số đó cũng gọi là sẽ tăng được chưa bao giờ mới sinh ra cho sự hoạt động chưa chuẩn bị chưa chuẩn bị mà sinh ra cho sự hoạt động nên bây giờ được thay cho nó ta cái số đó sẽ cái số đó cũng gọi là không được những cái chuyện gọi là nằm sang cho số số đó cũng sinh ra tham gia vào đó số mà được điều ra cái nên bây giờ được thay cho nó cái nên bây giờ tham gia cho số số nó cũng nên nó còn số mà thôi thôi mà được số cũng gọi mà thôi số đó mà rồi co nên bây giờ được thay cho xem cái cái số đó cũng là mà ta cho số đó cái điều cũng được bao nhiêu ra số đó cũng sẽ use cái sao bây giờ nó cái मेरे संगे तेरे सोबा मागुना नंदा बात जो ठंडे चेतन के चले सोबा कोने हो मारवा तो मेरा कदी सोबा कदी कुंगी बास होगा मैं सोबा कुंगी मैं अच्छे तेरे के मैं लाती मैं सुनाती लवादा ताकि करची में चीज़ है माता तीन दिखा सोबा कौन सा यूज़ सुन बास होगा ठंडे चेंगे तेरे ने तेरे कुंगी मारु जान सोबा कुंगी के यार मारा बच्चे को मारा लेकिन चेंगे तेरे जो सोबा मागुना एक तो शरद के सुल कुंगी ये से हो रहा है मैं बस इन दो फैन चला ताकि शरद चितप दूर से ताकि सोचो किराया शरद है या मुझे तो खड़े से बात से हो रहा खड़े से दो गुना दो थोक मारे से हो रहा हिंदू सिंह के लिए ताकि कंट्रीशन शरद कुंगी मार दो हिंदू मजनूर के लिए शरद कुंगी में से बात करने से भी और से दो तो शरद कुंगी ये नहीं ले दो रहा यहाँ की दिश
So here it continues by saying that, well, if it is the case, like, so the Dharma might not have an intention to benefit us, but it's still, at least it doesn't have an intention to harm. And again, this sort of goes back to the what we had talked about earlier, that when harm befalls us either from one that has a mind or doesn't have a mind, it's really no different. It's all the same. And so here it then says that it's not logical to think that the person that has a thought to harm you is somehow not an object worthy of veneration. So in verse 110 it says, and again this is coming from our normal way of thinking, our usual way of thinking, that, well, but surely my enemy is not to be venerated, for he intends to cause me harm. So here one thinks, well, okay, but this, in this case, someone who wishes to cause me harm, how could they possibly be worthy of my veneration? Well, we need, it turns out, to practice patience in order to become a Buddha. And in order to practice patience, we actually need those objects that provoke anger. So here it says in the second half, but how could patience be practiced if, like doctors, people always strove to do me good? So here we are striving to, again, develop this attitude where we have love for all sentient beings, and we want them all to be free from suffering and so forth. And if we're just constantly surrounded by those that are trying to benefit us, we never get the opportunity to practice patience, to develop this kind of attitude that is necessary in order to get rid of our anger and so forth. And so here, if we were only around those people that wanted to help us, wanted to benefit us, we would not have the chance to actually practice patience. And so here, there's no benefit to just thinking that, well, if it would be better if I were just surrounded by people who never did me any kind of harm. How then would we be able to practice patience? You wouldn't have that kind of chance. So here, rather than thinking that this is an obstacle or that it's not right to venerate or appreciate my enemy, we should see that, well, really it is, because it's only that thought of harm, that malicious intent, and that wish to harm us that allows us to practice patience. Without that, we don't have the opportunity.
Hoặc là trừ khi bạn không muốn tu tập thôi, bạn cứ để nguyên như vậy. Bạn không quan tâm tới cái chuyện tích lũy công đức và quan tâm tới hạnh phúc của những chúng sinh khác, từ bỏ sự tổn hại chúng sinh, thì bạn thấy nhẫn thì bạn sẽ không bao giờ có cơ hội để nhẫn nhục. Tại vì bây giờ cái người mà tổn hại bạn mà không nhẫn, thì không lẽ bạn đi nhẫn nhục với những người mà làm lợi ích cho mình. Nên là bạn sẽ không bao giờ có đối tượng để cho bạn nhẫn nhục, thì bạn cũng không bao giờ có cơ hội để thực hành nhẫn nhục. bây giờ mình cứ nói như vậy tại vì họ không có đáng cho mình cung phụng, không có đáng để cho mình tôn trọng, tại vì họ có ý nghĩ hại mình. Như vậy thì biết bao giờ mình mới có cơ hội để tu tập cái hành nhẫn nhục.
Bây giờ ta tế rập du tăng sinh là sẽ đó, tế rập du tăng sinh là tên là sẽ bắt kia nó, thì như sẽ bắt du in bắt tăng bắt chuyện gì, chuyện đó rồi sẽ đó, tế sẽ đó, như số số phân đấu chuyện gì, nên bắt khi vào là số bắt số phân đấu chuyện gì cho là chuyện này, sẽ bắt du mình đó sẽ đó, tế sẽ bắt mình du bắt chuyện tế nó sẽ đó, rập du tăng sinh là tên là sẽ bắt kia đó, số số tăng bắt chuyện gì. Mega chinge mega chinge chile ni soba ki do chile tan soba ki do ase radu transin la tan soba ki na ase ti soba ki me to soba kon be ki do dil kon do ra ni chinge dil kon do chen soba nyam ni soba ya do ko le tan yo ngo do ase ti soba ti so so le pan to yo re se koran ni pan to be sam yo na do ma da so so le pan to be nyam ni pan to yo sa tan be chu shin che ba ro se tambo chöshindu konaga mesim yenara yachini chöbaro barese kauro barese wala kugabi yaku chonsung sa kokatin na saba komya chonsung sam yolab chindu saya chonsung sam otindi sam gulabna otindu kala lazu yunani dwa kasir tani simje tamje la yishin nobu le lagbu tenzo dube sambe chodu chebran zimba shosungu dwa 그래서 tendu samlitani simje tanga susula robu chindu tashu dire dwara soba komsa chimbo sa chutum sunsa tanga simje dini yunguda chamba dan tsawa seru yake tanga kanga chanju bi simse niji chimbo se kanga simje itinle teni ya rususa ya yake roku dwa kisa mule samshina kiso nirman dudu simje tanga susula ta kewa tuga seru chamniji gonda seru ta kirsan geri kumbata tharbada tamji chumbana milu tobiya tondale tuga seru chiwara soso doni pasam pasam ki tu so shiru ta chimbo de yarda uti sojo kala simje tamje de shin nobule la besera tencho duba soso tonda chodi de tu ba shin nobu chende saya thore reji yogur madu tele la ke humara man pyana ta simje de le tane chende jande chende simje ta roba chen yogura chi le roba chen sogure ma soso chibo lombo tamba jina de so thwe ke yomara ke chima penje tanda chogde ke ba wanda lange ko ba thop kunanda tharwa thop kunanda sanje ko ba thop kunanda simje la samlo tanda lo cha che wange yogo do so simje tambe shin nobule la bore sa samudde ha ko mebe simje maraj so krite ngole ni nyamle chinde samutane chinde re do ara chiso nam dudi champe kya se lep chim kanga sa se chiso nam dudi hande ara Naranji chizo nam dudi khondo na dia thado hande se karche do sa tinde saji ani mo kera ene de de simje tambe da han de simje tambe se sa cher mada simje biga yana simje tambe karin basna shosha na damban de be se da mada suzuki de be simje ne khondo jasa khondo cheta do jasa ta dasim jasa dasim chedara ke mi do ta no lo changge je na ane mo simje sa chim bu shi tumbu ra ta tamma shi o lo da ya ta de station so
So here, like that, since it is the case that we need those who harm us. If we don't have anyone with a harmful intention, we won't be able to practice patience. So it continues then that those who act as conditions for our being able to practice patience, or are the objects of our patience, are worthy of our veneration, because thus, since patient acceptance is produced in dependence upon one with a very hateful mind, that person should be worthy of veneration, just like the sacred Dharma, because he is a cause of patience. So it is precisely really only because of that harmful intention, that kind of hateful attitude in the mind of another, that we are able to practice patience. And so it is the cause of our being able to engage in this practice that is extremely beneficial. This is something that benefits us a great deal. We are able to practice and develop our patience only when we have someone with that kind of harmful intention towards us, that sort of hateful intention towards us. So it's because of that person, they act as a cause for that great result, that we should actually see them as worthy of veneration. We should look at that person who's causing us harm, and instead of getting angry, think that, well, in dependence upon this, if I actually practice patience, I can accumulate a great deal of merit. There's a great profit that comes to me, a great benefit that comes to me from this other being. So here, like it says in the 8 verses of mind training, that one should always cherish other sentient beings. I will always cherish other sentient beings as like a wish-fulfilling jewel, because it's in dependence upon them that we are able to attain this kind of highest state. So whether we are wishing to, when we are sort of giving rise to this attitude of wanting to help and benefit others, but we wish it is in dependence upon other sentient beings that we are able to, from the very lowest, even survive in this world. Without other sentient beings, if we were just like alone by ourselves in some kind of land, we wouldn't be able to survive or sustain ourselves. But even much more beyond that, we get to Buddhahood in dependence upon other sentient beings. In this way, they're like a wish-fulfilling jewel. If we really look at them in this way, we can see how all beings that we encounter give us opportunities to practice patience or accumulate virtue in whatever kind of way. And so if we're sort of sitting here and saying our prayers like, oh, may all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness and so forth, but then we go out, we get up, we go out and we interact with others and we just get angry and we let our minds act in the normal way, our words are just very empty. It becomes totally meaningless to say those things if we are just sort of saying it as a prayer, but not actually putting it into practice when we go out and interact with others. So we shouldn't allow our mind to just sort of go as it normally would, but rather recognize and appreciate the benefits that other beings do for us. Even those that cause us harm are in turn a cause for our Buddhahood, and thereby we should have an appreciation or see them as worthy of reverence. And it will continue below about kind of how we should have respect for sentient beings. But here, even those with a harmful attitude are indispensable for our enlightenment. We are only able to practice patience in relation to them. So again, we shouldn't just sort of say these prayers, but actually adopt those attitudes when we go out and are interacting with other sentient beings in society.
Nhờ chúng sinh cho nên cuộc sống của đời này chúng ta có được hạnh phúc, và cũng nhờ chúng sinh mà mình đạt được quả vị Phật. Nên nói chúng sinh còn quý hơn cả cái viên ngọc ước nữa. Nên trong cái xã hội thì trong thời khi chúng ta tiếp xúc với cuộc sống thì chúng ta gặp những cái đối tượng mà quấy rối hay là chọc tức thì chúng ta lập tức là chúng ta sân hận và tức giận. Gặp đối tượng mà thấy đẹp chúng ta tham đắm, và cái gì mà hơn thì chúng ta lập tức ghen tị, rồi kiêu ngạo, tham sân si, kiêu ngạo, ghen tị tật đố, rồi tranh đua, tất cả chúng ta đều làm đủ hết. Nhưng mà trong khi là tất cả chúng sinh là cái đối tượng để cho chúng ta tích lũy nhiều công đức và chúng ta thực hành để mà hành pháp, nhiều chúng sinh chúng ta mới áp dụng pháp và mới luyện được cái tâm của mình. Nhưng chúng ta không nắm lấy được cơ hội đó, mà chúng ta thực hành pháp một nẻo nào xa xôi, nói vì lợi ích tất cả chúng sinh, chúng ta ngồi một chỗ nhắm mắt liên nhiên và tụng niệm, vì lợi ích tất cả chúng sinh con nguyện thành Phật, mong cho tất cả chúng sinh có được hạnh phúc và nhân hạnh phúc, mong tất cả chúng sinh thoát khỏi khổ đau và nhân khổ đau. Mà trong khi đó là mình làm cho chúng sinh khổ đau. Khi gặp lúc nào sân hận thì chúng ta nổi lên sân hận, khi ghen tị chúng ta nổi ghen tị, khi tranh đua thì chúng ta sẵn sàng tranh đua. Mình nói chúng sinh, tất cả chúng sinh ở đâu nó chẳng liên quan gì tới cái sự tu tập của mình cả. Mà trong khi tu tập là những chúng sinh họ đang gần kề bên mình. Khi làm thế nào để chúng ta luyện thân mình không tổn hại chúng sinh mà làm cho chúng sinh được hạnh phúc, chúng sinh ngay xung quanh mình ở trong xã hội, chứ không phải mình nói tất cả chúng sinh mà không chỉ ra được chúng sinh nào, mà trong khi muốn cho họ được hạnh phúc, muốn cho họ hết khỏi đâu. Mà chúng ta có làm gì được cho họ được hạnh phúc đâu, làm cho gì cho họ bớt khỏi đâu chưa, mà chúng ta chỉ gây thêm. Khi tham thì chúng ta tham, khi suy nổi bực tức thì chúng ta bực tức, khi ghen tị chúng ta ghen tị, tranh đua ganh đua. Cho nên không bao giờ nghĩ đến cái chuyện là cái chuyện mình tu hành là nó không có khớp với những cái gì mà trong cái xã hội, trong cuộc sống. Mà trong muốn tu hành mà muốn thực hiện những cái điều mà mình muốn thực hành đó thì phải áp dụng trong cái xã hội, trong những người ở xung quanh mình, trong chúng sinh. Cho nên khi một người mà biết luyện tâm, mà biết tu tập thì đối với tất cả chúng sinh, đối tượng nào cũng là rất là quý báu. Nó rất quý báu, tại vì chúng sinh quý hơn cả ngọc viên ngọc ước nữa. Thì nhờ các chúng sinh cho nên chúng ta mới có cơ hội để nhẫn nhục, để chúng ta giảm bớt cái điều bất thiện, giảm thiểu tạo hòa chúng sinh. Nhờ đó mình mới có những cái ngôi vị cao hơn ở cõi trời của người, hay là đạt giác ngộ giải thoát, hay đạt được ba vị Phật. Nên những người mà biết tu tập, biết luyện tâm thì đều họ trân quý tất cả chúng sinh.
Đó xem trên thì ta sang về những thứ số năm để sinh được chỉ có để số năm sau để sinh được chỉ có để thì sẽ đó xem trên là sang về số năm để sinh được không có đó là sống đó là sống đó thì luôn trong đó ở đây thì chỉ xem trên sinh đang như thế xem trên để sinh số sáu sau để sinh để số là số năm sau để sinh sẽ xử lý sự tạo lên ba mà chỉ sinh ra tập thì toàn bộ tập ra toàn bộ toàn mình rồi là sau số có thể thì tập sẽ cái toàn bộ là cho nó cảm chịu đó cái này sinh ra rồi cái sau khi tập sẽ thì sinh ra đã sang về như vậy sẽ ra như vậy thì nó sang về chỉ sinh ra rồi sau khi tập sẽ sinh cái bên trên ba không phải là thì sẽ đó cái đó là không sao thì sẽ ra thì chỉ sinh ra như thế sinh ra thì số năm giờ sau sau cái sinh ra udah lama kawan thoba sabita bina teleta yara tharva thoba sabita bina teleta yara sangye kawan thoba sabita bina teleta yara simjani tani yara hoti songa sangye ji shingde esa sangye ji sabin tapsa ke shingam chire esa me sangye de ko sangye thoje ko shebra soba chobala soba tendechene cái sinh sản sinh ra sinh sản như thế,我听了你讲，当不出多。第四身边行当年是，单位形式特别松弛，说那么说个行对了身边的形式当，你单位松是行商业的说法，这就性格经理行经理话的是性格啥不搭不的了，跟人啥不搭不的了呀。तो पुरुषों सब हम तो हमने ताबड़ तंजे चला तो जो ने सब तब से चले नहीं रहे सेरा और ये इंदु का सेरा ये सो से अदमान दो सुनसे दे ना तांडवा दो छो अंडा बोते बन दो ले सो दवा सिंजे जी सिंने सांगे जी सिंदे से सिंजे जी सिंदे सांगे जी सिंदे सांगे जी सब तब से सिंगे दे से cái này chỉ thảo luận tập cái sao bên tập sao, muốn được làm những công việc tập cái sao bên tập sao xử lý đó ra, sinh viên gì sinh đi sang cái gì sinh đi, sang cái gì sinh thế là sẽ, sinh viên đi sang cái gì sinh đi sẽ, sang cái gì công việc tập cái sao bên tập sao cái sinh cái đó sẽ ra, sang cái gì sinh thế là sang cái gì chuyện làm, thâu bằng điều gì sẽ, sinh viên cái sinh là thế này, chẳng bao nhiêu gì chẳng gì sinh chỉ bao nhiêu đó sao bao nhiêu công này, nó sang cái ra. समझने माध्यम से साझे इसमें दो कांका संधि करते हैं कुछ साझे जिसमें दिले साझे जिसमें थोड़ा गिरजे तेरे लोबर टूला मेरे सोचो समझे दे तो मारे से साझे जिसमें चाचे बुरे थबा थमजे चंबा थबा तेरे माधो समझे तो ते मारे से मंजूर लोग हैं ये ना ते वाला समझे कांके से मारवा तो साझे दे चंजू सब तो जब तक बुरे像什么啥上星期三不嘛都 Simjian doji sonam sasa shimada jari japsada thado chesada desam chesada kondu tesa wagodan sa shire sungura gara tumang chaga o ki sesa mare sitigi cheba ta kore se sangjabala o ta khashe pesa khashe nala sangye be jutu wala sangye le hava simjian le chigure se sangye de ko captain be chane yende chane hava re sigiwa mare social gre yaje gre samutan sa shidi chane Simjian di chicho di la maa tabi na tiri kei chisho te te wara ranzo simjian chicho li kei stabi marwa namchi chakzan resi we sabi mada tanya sanje to tozi de japchi de re rewa de di tso wara che mado maa tasa di danda chiye che kawa yore de tibu mardo se tini keba yo mares tanda ranzo mene chiwe na sanje le simjian tso songu resi sanje captain babu re captain sa resi wa tile labo ya mara namjini ke captain capsu chese tanda ke kikane se tubi se te tonda solam sa chowa pe so atab chene so solam sa ne chende da kime la de to yele pengida o tile tawone che se de simjian de de da simjian le jin bo chu se de me ke chu chu simjian le sa pa stamu de zo da ne simjian da ta so da shen so simjian ma che ne so da simjian de rang le la pa chi hu de se Sama megane sosu ke shishuchi ene meri ya tongju che kanka che tebesa tandaba du tedre tanda du steda imbes tabado ene tata shen che ure sungura na samten sosu ke shishuchi eteda shen ke shishuchi samlu ni chebe ga gures tanda bado samlu che sosu ke shishuchi ne ke shishuchi ayo na de bure de ke chayo marwa ke shishuchi ne shanda ke shishuchi che bogota tebesa ji sa je khornera o ti sodo kaso o mondo che swade o tanto da wade dona sungudwa simjian ji shin da ne kere shin shi sunam so be shin tanda dan da war tobe sun so se tanda sanje nam captain babo sunam ji shin keba chare o ti na shi simjian to sunam so shin keba chare sanje ji ko wa to shin keba chare se chimare ta ore so Why teach you?
So here then it turns to looking at again these kinds of fields of virtue or fields of merit. So sentient beings and Buddhas, these two are actually sort of equal as fields in which we develop merit in relation to, or in fields that we create merit in relation to. So here, this begins in the first half of 112 with a quotation from the sutras. And so here, again, when we are talking about a field of merit, this is something where when we properly prepare that field and plant the seeds, we can gain a good harvest for that, from that. So here, the sort of fields for planting the seeds of Buddhahood, we have two of those. There are the field of sentient beings in relation to whom we engage in virtuous actions and thereby create the causes of Buddhahood, and the sort of field of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and we can make offerings and engage in various virtuous practices in relation to that. And so here, these are the sort of fields that we plant the seeds in for gaining, at the least, a good rebirth, a happier kind of migration as a human or a god, or the state of liberation, or the state of omniscience. And so it is in relation to sentient beings, really, in addition, and Buddhas as well, that we are able to sort of plant these seeds that lead to those kinds of results of higher rebirth, liberation, and the state of omniscience. So it is from independence upon sentient beings that we are able to achieve that. And so here in the first half of verse 112, it says, "Therefore, the Mighty One has said that the field of sentient beings is similar to a Buddha field." And so here, it's not right to act wrongly towards those sentient beings that are really the sort of cause, the field that we should respect and venerate. So here, there are actually those that would say, so here quoting from the sutra, it says then in the Dharma Sangiti, or the Compendium of Dharma Sutra, that the field of sentient beings are the field of Buddhahood, meaning that they are the field in relation to which we are able to achieve Buddhahood. And so it is from them that one attains the Dharma of the Buddhas. And so therefore we shouldn't act wrongly in relation to them. So here, this again, there are actually those that would say that we should see this field of sentient beings as superior to the field of Buddhas, not in terms of the qualities they have, but in terms of acting as a source of enlightenment. So the Buddha acts as like a protector by teaching us. The Buddha is our refuge because it shows us the way to engage in practice. And we can do some sort of virtuous activities in relation to Buddhas. We can make offerings and so forth. But other sentient beings are really our main object of practice. We begin again by abandoning the 10 non-virtues, abandoning those kinds of harmful actions, and we do so in relation to other sentient beings. And going beyond that, we begin to get rid of those kinds of attitudes, we get rid of those attitudes of attachment and hatred that come from the sense of I, the I and then other, mine and yours and so forth. And so that is something that we do in relation to other sentient beings. And finally, at the highest level of a practice, in relation to other sentient beings, we engage in the exchange of self and other. And in that way, get rid of that normal sort of sense of importance that our needs are more important than all others. And so in this way, all of these kinds of practices involve other sentient beings. And so we shouldn't look at the field of sentient beings. The normal way that a lot of people think about it is like, oh, the Buddhas are so important, they have all of these qualities, and they're seen as sort of an object worthy of our reverence and offerings and so forth. But then we look at other sentient beings and we kind of look down on them, like, oh, they're just, other sentient beings. But again, we should see that these are equal, at least equal, in terms of their necessity to us. It's acting as fields for our merit, the way, the fields, the objects in relation to whom we are planting these seeds of Buddhahood. And so this is particularly in the case of other sentient beings. This has been very clearly said in this sutra. And so it is in this way that we're able to plant a great seed of our enlightenment through the field of sentient beings. And so this is, again, the Buddha himself has said that in terms of generating merit, the field of sentient beings is equal to that of Buddhas. And so we shouldn't have this sort of disregard for other sentient beings, but in reality see them as the main objects of our practice and in the field in relation to which we will plant these seeds of our enlightenment. So again, the first half of this verse, this is the first half of verse 112. Therefore, the Mighty One has said that the field of sentient beings is similar to a Buddha field.
Tarchimba, Jimba Tarchimba, Shirab Tarchimba, Bamba Tarchimba, Radesura. Yuda Guja Mabushi, Simjanda, Sanjay Nigaria, Debakona, Devan, Kayakona, Kubachaba, 10 years, Shinsatila Sabu Abutabala 10 years, Yuda Guja Mabushi, Yuda Punja Padu Chinese, Simjanta Sanje Dela Taji Kura Chabal Tene, the Kansa Mambushi, Tini Pusum Soba, Tini Pusum Soba, Sirab de Paru du Chimba, Sanje Kova Tova Rese, Rangatin Pusum So, Sanje Pusum Soba, and Paru du Chinsu Dera, Paru du Chinsu de Tatele, Tago Yarjan Rana, Tarsim Batula, Chimba Paru du Chimba, Sebe Paru du Chimba, Sirab de Paru du Chimba. 파르스리아 여친신이 다 타신 것이 되려고 그러나 되려고 하지 말아거라. 뒤에서가 어떻게 제가 그저 뭐시 내가 분조 파도 신세 상계다 심전도 달아 고버체발에 때내서 내 강사 뭐시 강사 traum가 신이마 뒤에 고버체발 때내 뒤에가 손음사고 신도 손알에 때내 오늘 돈이 타신데 교수님사고 상계적 고마도야 마무시 신사레스타 리버방이라 대부담도 누구도 상계 논래 somshas 다 리버도 바세 상계적 신도 세계 신이가 집에서 등일에 사부터를 때네 아니 나를 심지 마무시게 단된도 타신 버전 다 상계적 고마 랑도 타신 신도 타신 돈이 타신시다 돈에서 랑도시도 랑도 돈시도 소소 Sisa Kanga Langdor Jinda Tamjo She, Kamalu Bapang Suma Rangdun Kubusuratela. Rangde Kanga Shen, Langdor Jinda Tamjo Kangula, Ti Rangdun Kusure. Rangde Mishi Badam Yum, Badam Mishi Bamamba Kanga Kanga Seba Seba Chora, Tumi Pang Batanga Chora, Tila Rangdun Kusure. Tumi Pang Batanga, Namba Tamjo Chibi Shishora, Tinga Tila Rangdun Kusura. So rang tundar ti korwa tamu sosu kya kagapang lambe jinne tambi shen korwa sa tele rangdo ki kuwa chere shendon ki kuwa shide shendi tundar tumbe rangdo pangba phunzo na tagwa phunzo niga top chanirwa ane shendi tundar tubala tagwa da pangba di yoye tere chi pa phunzo mato tenya kaya mato tende yenge ka kansa ki namba cheche mi dungile ten tujen dungile ten ni chushe korwa kansa dile sigara shendu suku sigara suji ku sanji chomdende tabo suji ku cheche tuche tonya yere che ane chue son labje son tinangi yara pangda yugende ngibudu tonya kaya maro kadulya rangde gire rangi musumdu ya mato tuche shenji musumdu che ya mare shenda atene lungude kuru se parbe tuche shenji musumdu che yara musumdu che ne ane chue songu yara tila shendun ji kose sugu musu shenla tenpa kone ane shenji tenje ane tila sugu sigara tenda susu kya maluba se yanden sama kundu chu ane tila kansa kina namba tenye sigara rangdun tarse shendun tarse se rangdun ji ku shendun ji ku tumi tarse base ate yisuwa tila kuja mungu se tila punja paru chinsa What is
So then next it says by having respect or faith in both sentient beings and Buddhas, one is able to obtain this ultimate desired result. So here in the second half of 112, it says, thus, for many who have pleased them, have thereby reached perfection. So here it is, again, by showing both, so for many who have pleased them, and so this is referring to those who have independence upon creating virtues in relation to the field of sentient beings and that of Buddhas, have then gained these sort of excellencies or perfection of their own aim as well as the aims of others. So here it's describing the kind of sort of excellencies that we obtain, something that is, when we say this sort of word perfection, it means that there's nothing superior, nothing higher. It's at its completion. It couldn't be developed any farther. So here, countless sentient beings of the past, by holding these two, the sentient beings and Buddhas, as field of merit, and have in that way accumulated merit in relation to them, have then been able to attain this state of perfection in which they have perfected their own aims as well as the aims of others. So here, this is establishing this by logic, as opposed to above, where it was being established through scripture, through that scriptural quotation. So here, when we refer to our own aims, this is really referring to the truth body, or the Dharmakaya, that is the culmination of all of the kind of qualities that we have developed to their perfection, having knowledge of all of the points to be adopted and abandoned without any kind of deception there, or any kind of wrong knowing, as well as the sort of elimination of all faults, the elimination of these two obscurations. And so here, that kind of achievement that one gains, having removed all faults and developed all good qualities, is this truth body, or the Dharmakaya. But this is something that we can't really give to others or do anything with unless we are able to teach or show this to others. And that necessitates a kind of person, a kind of body. And so here, the excellencies in relation to others, developing or perfecting the aims of others, means that we are able to develop this form body in order to be able to teach to disciples, to show to others. And so this is the way in which the kind of qualities of abandonments and realizations that really belong in our own continuum can be of benefit to others, is by also obtaining this form body by which we are then able to teach to others. So that kind of state in which one has eliminated all faults and developed all good qualities is something, this sort of perfected state is thus attained in dependence upon having a great deal of respect and reverence for these two fields, the field of sentient beings and the field of Buddhas. So here, this is established through logic in this second half of verse 112.
Vào cái ruộng của chúng sinh và ruộng vật, cho nên các vị ấy đã hòm cất được các hạnh ba la mật và đạt được cái viên mãn là đạt được quả vị Phật, là tự lợi tha viên mãn.
So we'll stop there for tonight, as the time is up.
Hello, brothers and sisters. So our class is going to stop here tonight, and we'll continue tomorrow evening, same time, same place, 7:30 to 9 p.m. And let's stop by offering short mandala and dedicate our merits. This ground, anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru for continents, the sun and the moon.